Hi everyone, Harry here to talk about topic 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the withdrawal by President Joe Biden from his candidacy in November and all the moving parts that go into motion thereafter. Let's make this point first. If anyone has been following me on YouTube or the Talking Feds episode that will come out tomorrow, it has struck me, without having taking any partisan position, that this had to happen, because the many statements from just about everyone in party leadership, Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, they were done in a hedged or polite way, but reading between the lines, as I think one learns to do in Washington, D.C., you could see that Biden had a very, very stark choice, and really, I think, a Hobson's choice, no real choice at all. Because if he had decided to stay the course, and by the way, of course, from his point of view, until the moment he steps aside, he has to be saying, I'm 110% in there, because if he gives it this much, the rush to the gates would be instantaneous. He had a choice, and it was an easy, if cruel, choice. The choice was to buck the entire party establishment, take the blame basically personally were he to lose, and the polls were all bad and getting worse. And that being the sort of lead item of his political legacy. That was choice A. Choice B, step aside, get the immediate love and plaudits of the entire Democratic Party. Wait till you see the sort of hero's welcome he will get in Chicago at the convention. Be seen as a patriot who unselfishly steps aside for the good of the country after having had a hugely successful presidency, a 50-year career. It was really not I'm sure they talked it over, huddled all weekend, but I think looking at it soberly, as of Friday, this had to happen. All right, now the issue, though, and any level head, and this is the second point that we know in Democratic kind of, yes, party elite, though keep in mind that 2/3 of Democratic voters already were saying he needed to step aside, is what next, how not to descend into total bedlam. The reason for doing this, there's really one reason and one reason only, and that's to improve the prospects of beating Trump in November. And they decided, did the party faithful, that meant two words, Kamala Harris. And just to be clear, it's been widely reported that at the time he chose her, Biden was not a huge Harris fan and received a lot of negatives about her. Her vice presidency has been not successful. Her approval ratings are even below those of Biden. But if you take a step back and you're thinking about the party, and really to think about the party now means to think about the country, because it's the Dems or Donald Trump. I'll return to this. It's got to be Kamala Harris. If it's not she, Jim Clyburn, the man who made Biden, salvaged his presidency, the all-important African-American congressman from South Carolina who came out in 2020, he immediately endorses Kamala Harris, and everyone falls into line. So Biden is able, as part of the strategy, to come pretty close to anointing his successor. In fact, I think go all the way. I think there's really no viable alternative, but I'll return to that in a moment. And he does, but because he's a party and country person, not because he's deeply loyal to Kamala Harris, but she is the way to victory. A short way to think about it is if there's a process that ensues and it's not Kamala Harris, there will be blood on the floor, all kinds of controversy, especially involving the very important traditional Democratic constituency of African Americans. It's actually interesting that Kamala Harris plays as a black woman. She is half black, but half Indian, which I think is an interesting kind of twist here. All right, so that's the second point. It was Harris or Bedlam. It's not 100% certain that it will be Harris, but I think it's 98% certain. And you've seen the people who would buck her, who would say, hey, maybe it's my turn. What a turn of events. Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro, Jamie Raskin all fall into line and quickly. So Harris. All right, let's talk a little about process then, because there are some 4,000 Democratic delegates. They are pledged to Joe Biden, nearly all of them. There is no way that Biden can force them to pledge for Harris. If he withdraws, they are free agents and can do what they want. And if somebody was really trying to become president who wasn't Kamala Harris, there'd be a sort of feeding frenzy of trying to get to the different delegates. Each person needs, I think, 600 signatures among the almost 4,000. Kamala Harris will have no trouble doing that, and I think anyone else will have a lot of trouble doing that, if nothing else, because it'll be visible and ostentatious. But anyway, Kamala Harris will, in short order, assemble that number and be an official candidate. And I think the goal will be, it was not going to be the case with Biden, that he was literally nominated as the nominee on the 19th through 22nd, which is the 4-day period for the upcoming Democratic convention. Rather, one can do that before. And I think they were pointing at something like August 7th, and I think that will go. Let's talk a little bit more about Harris and her standing. So it is true that she hasn't been a successful vice president. It is true that the Washington class has not been bullish on her. But I think it's also true, American people haven't paid close attention, at least since 2020 when she ran. And she'll just get another look. And B, she's really good in the open field. She's got charisma. She's got energy. She's got humor, poise. And I think she can probably cut Trump to ribbons, or at least that's the idea. Indeed, here is the whole notion in a nutshell, why Biden steps down and why they hope Harris will take up the baton, what they hope to have happen. Change this election from a referendum, as it was turning out to be, on Joe Biden and his age, and back to a referendum on Donald Trump. 46% of this country already have made their mind up. Trump has totally gone back to form, after those couple comments about unity in Milwaukee. Biden steps aside, the perfect opportunity for slight graciousness, and Trump says what? He is by far the worst president of all time. Trump, is just a flaming jerk, and, we're in characteristic Trump land. But the basic hope is twofold. First, with the whole drama here, you have erased essentially the crazy 3 weeks from June 27th to date with the debate, the attempted assassination, COVID, all the kind of hubbub, and we're just back to where we were on June 26th and basically a referendum on Trump. And second, that Harris can carry it, and quickly. So that's really the main focus here. She's going to, in short order, pick a vice president. I think We can look for that to be perhaps somebody like Josh Shapiro. I don't think they contemplate another woman. I don't think they contemplate another minority. There are a handful of people, but again, really important is that not just Josh Shapiro, but Gretchen Whitmer and everyone have pretty well saluted. Indeed, you can imagine from their own selfish vantage point thinking, wow, this is kind of a crazy period still. Trump has this head of steam. I'm going to duck, sit this one out and prepare to run in 2028. Of course, that won't happen to a Josh Shapiro if Kamala Harris makes him her VP choice. Okay, so to summarize what we know and what we don't. We know that Biden had to do it. We know that it only makes sense to have all focus be on Kamala Harris and hopefully quickly. We know the process and the likelihood that she become the nominee before the convention begins on the 18th of August. We know some of the problems she's had in the polls, but that with the sort of elite class that pays attention, and the Dems are hoping, and I think with good reason, that she get another chance and her really formidable open field campaign skills come to the fore. And we know that the overall goal here is to make this once again an election about Donald Trump with a real focus on not just a handful of swing states, but actually specific districts and cities within those states, many of which, by the way, the Democratic path to victory would be a high turnout, particularly in minority communities. So it may be that Harris's path to victory focuses more on that and less on the very small number of quote unquote undecideds in these different counties in these different states. And then finally, action to come, vice presidential choice, and a general kind of coalescing around Harris, and also not to be overlooked here, Joe Biden is now a hero for the ages, and he will play that way at the convention, play that way during the campaign. And it doesn't matter that he's 81 because he's not going to try to lead the country anymore. Instead, he's a wise, older statesman who stepped aside because of the huge stakes involved in the election that Donald Trump might become president. So that is the whole situation of what we know now and what we don't know. It's going to be very quickly developing over the next few days, and we'll be coming to you with some more YouTube explanations. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.